Hey, it's Don with Focused Healthy Family. Welcome to Sendback Saturday, where we review a podcast from the past. And today, we have another one. I hope you enjoy. Take care.
So we were young parents with an almost 2-year-old, and we liked dressing up for Halloween, and our church was having a Halloween party, and we decided to go, and we got ready. And
we were clowns.
We had these clown costumes we had created years before, and we had full white makeup on, outlining our eyes, big red lips, crazy wigs on, plaid, crazy clothes.
I think I even had that red nose on too.
So we get in the car. Harrison falls asleep.
How old is Harrison? Do we think?
It was right before he turned 2.
Okay, so he's young, very young.
He falls asleep. His birthday's in November, so he was not quite 2. He falls asleep in the car. We pull into the parking lot of the church.
I opened the door
to get him out, and he was freaked out.
There's a clown pulling him out of the car.
Did not recognize us. We had these masks on. We had these.
Our faces painted up and everything.
Painted, so it didn't really look like the real us. And I guess it took him a few minutes to kind of settle down.
Well, I think once he heard our voice, and we were saying, he
was there when we got ready.
Yeah, but it,
so
but there was. We always dressed up too. That was really cool. We did a lot of neat costumes. Well, remember we also, if we're getting, but it went into the restaurant when this is before we were.
Yeah, we had the same.
Before we were kids,
costume,
and we went into
it was a Japanese steakhouse kind of
where you sat around and we had that. I had a horn, like a kind of horn, and we had a great time. Everybody in the restaurant kind of got into it, and because we were there with Terry and Julie.
We were there with some friends. We were going to go to a dance with them. We met up to go out to eat first. Yeah, and I think you weren't talking. You were only honking the horn. And
so hello, this is Don,
and this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
And this is podcast number 72. And today we're talking about getting real. And before we really get into that, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor.
Our sponsor is Q Sciences. I've been a representative for Q Sciences for over a year. I found this company through a friend and did some research and reading about these products. And I really liked what I found when I learned about them, the research and time that they've put into the quality of these products to be better absorbed into the body. Things like the vitamin D spray. Our youngest was on a capsule vitamin D, and yet vitamin D levels remained the same with follow-up checkups. And with the spray, it increased.
Pretty strong.
Almost double.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking her levels were maybe 20. And I want to say they went up to 47 or something around that range. And the sleep spray is another great one. It's got melatonin, 5-HTP, and I believe another herbal supplement in there. And because it's a spray, you spray it on your tongue, it gets absorbed more quickly into your body to be more effective to help you in the moment. We're using the B12 spray. We've used the vitamin C spray. They have a Q Max product, which is a multivitamin.
And they also have the CBD, different, a variety of different.
It's full spectrum oils. Yes. They even have a THC-free version. It comes in different flavors. There is a mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
Armor. It's called Q Armor. It's a powder, and I get the chai flavor. Put it in my chai tea for a double chai drink.
So instead of, as they say, flushing your supplements down, the toilet or the drain, you want to get something like this that's fully absorbed. It's like flushing money down the toilet too, if you're not using a supplement that absorbs well and does well for your body. So that's what Q Science is really about. It's a good, well absorbed, high nutrient product.
They have multiple products. They have child specific products. They now also have some facial cream products. I've been using a night cream to minimize the effects of sunlight and stress and aging on my skin. And they have a hemp lotion. That's also a wonderful product that we've tried. So check us out, learn more. You can find the link at our website,
www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can also go to focusedhealthyfamily.com/Q Sciences, the letter Q and Sciences.
with an S at the end.
With the S at the end, yes.
And we're back. And so we're talking Get Real. I kind of named it that because I just got out of the shower and my hair's still wet. But it's inspired by, I listened to one of my favorite podcasts, Zen Parenting Radio. They interviewed my other favorite parenting podcaster, Hunter Clarke Fields, with Mindful Momma Mentor. So their podcast, this was number 721. It's an everyday conversation with Hunter Clarke Fields. And so they have known each other a while and they're along similar paths of parenting journeys.
Parenting coaching.
Yeah, and they talked about being real with your kids and allowing them to see who you really are. And that's something that I guess came naturally to me. There are a lot of parents out there who kind of put their stuff on hold and they immerse themselves into their kids' world. They talked about listening to only their kids' music and kind of separating their own personal life, and their kids grow up not really knowing the person behind this parent that they see every day.
Well, they lose their own identity in a way. I've had, working with parents, I've had a lot of parents that have come out of that and not really know who they are because they've, really given themselves up to their kids and their kids' ways and stuff, it's kind of an identity crisis at a point.
Yeah. And that kind of takes it down a whole different path that they didn't really touch on in this podcast, yet it speaks to that, it speaks to that, and talking about connecting with our kids and being authentic with them and for them to see who we really are and being a part of their life and yet not hiding ourselves.
No, I just did. I'm mouthing to you, and then you're trying not to do.
Yeah, mouth up.
Yeah, I know.
Catch our ums and ahs and different stuttering words that we use.
Yeah, what I was going to say was the fact that what I always admired, especially in you, was the fact that you didn't really talk down to the kids. I mean, we would get on their level at times too when we talk with them, but that's different than talking down to them.
Mm-hmm.
You patronize, I guess that would be kind of patronizing in a way.
A fun little story. When Harrison was 3 or 4, we went to the farmer's market. There's a local farmer's market that I loved. And we're talking to a woman and she's got some zucchini. And she held one up looking at, our kids tended to be petite when they were, so they looked younger than they actually were. But he was probably 3 or 4 because Abby wasn't there. And she held up the zucchini. She said, "Do you know what color this is?" He just kind of had this look on his face.
Like, well, what do you think? I'm stupid?
Lady, he can practically spell zucchini. And I didn't say that. And we just kind of laughed. And he was just kind of like, "Green, lady, you don't know what color the zucchini is?" And it speaks to that idea that, we see a little kid and we, "Oh, aren't you cute?" Our youngest always struggled when people talk to her, and being the youngest, just kind of always in that role of the baby, talking to her. And she's always had the sophisticated language. And to me, it speaks to the idea of respect, that they are people. Hunter Clarke Fields has a book called Raising Good Humans, and they are humans. And they talk about these principles of communication and how it applies to communicating with anybody.
Yeah.
And it really, they were talking about how someone says that they communicate in a certain way with coworkers or peers or friends, but they're different when they're a parent. And they were questioning that. Why are you a different person when you're a parent than when you're,
with your child,
with your peers? Why does that look differently?
Well, because, we work with the book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. I use that with adults, with my transaction, not a good word, interactions with my adult peers and things like that. And it's very effective. So it kind of goes to the point of
basic communication
skills. Yeah. And we can use them for the children as well as we can for adults and everyday life.
All of our interactions. And that actually brings up another topic they were talking about, that there is no formula of how to be a parent. And that's one thing I love, the How to Talk book that we use and follow their program. Yet taking it a step further, these are guidelines, these are skills to learn on communication. But there really is not a specific formula, because there's a whole philosophy that goes behind why we use that book. And if we're coming at it as a authoritarian parent,
this is the way
trying to impart these skills upon our child, they're going to see right through that. It's more of a matter of, how can I respect my kid? How can I step back, see them for who they are, acknowledge their struggles, and realize their struggles are very real to them. A 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, what is difficult for them may seem silly to us, but in their world, that's what's important. And that's what matters. And we need to respect that.
Yeah, address it, listen to it, listen to them.
And so we have a philosophy that we meet you where you are as parent coaches and take you to where you'd like to be, sharing in the avenue of respectful, conscious, collaborative parenting. And so if you're out to control your kids and make them do what you want, we're not the coaches for you. Yet there's not, one specific way. It's not like, you have to say this and do it this way, because we're all different people. Our kids are their own unique selves. And like how I parented our oldest, things changed when you have a second child and even a third child.
Their styles were different too. That was,
who they are.
We naively thought initially when the second child came that it would be just like the first child.
But you have a whole new dynamic there. And our youngest being 7 years younger than our middle child, there's quite an age gap there.
Plus it was the third child. It's something about the ratios, where with 2 kids, you kind of each take a child, manage a child, I guess, yeah, one-on-one.
It's 2 children.
The third child comes along and it throws that whole dynamic off, and it's a whole thing you got to learn to kind of adapt to and change with it.
And where I was going along those lines, you bring up some great points.
I go this way and you go that way.
I remember listening to the kids' songs with Harrison. We had these tapes of the high-pitched, squeaky voices of
boys and girls
songs we listened to over and over. In fact, I was pregnant with Abby, so Harrison was 4. We were going to my grandfather's 80th surprise birthday party in New Jersey, and it was my sister and me and my son. And my sister had never really taken a trip with a child like that. And we were listening to the kids' songs.
She has furry children.
She does. And I had just had enough of the music, but I didn't give him we're going to listen one more song or 5 more minutes. I didn't give him that I know he usually needs. And I just said, okay, we're done with it. And he kind of threw a fit. And she was just like, it threw her off, like, what, disappointed in you. And I realized, this was my fault, because I knew he needed transitions. I knew he needed to be like, okay, we're going to something else now. And I guess we still listen to some of those fun songs as Abby came along, but we also listened to a lot of my own music that I enjoyed as well. I have a fun memory of we used to go once a month to an assisted living facility locally here with some other homeschool families, and we would do activities with the residents. And we pulled up one time and Queen's Another One Bites the Dust was playing. So we're pulling into a facility that houses elderly people, and I'm just getting a chuckle out of it. And I can't remember if I shared a laugh with the kids about it or not, but my kids grew up hearing the music I love.
Would have been ironic to have an ambulance there while another one bites the dust.
And I have this whole playlist of songs that I tell my kids I'd like to play at my funeral, and that's one of them. And they're just a bit overwhelmed by
Remember,
that.
man, that you are dust, and dust you shall return. No. Another one bites the dust.
There we go. Like a good mashup.
That's an idea. That's an idea. I'll have to.
So it speaks to the point of they saw me as a human being. They saw the things that I like to do and the music I like to listen to. And our oldest,
I was going to say, he
listens to 60s, 70s, 80s songs as much as I do.
So he must have gotten some influence from both of us, because I'm a 70s and you're 80s and 70s. I think you like both.
Yeah,
you're very flexible. Musically flexible.
My playlists encompass really back to the 50s all the way to present day.
Well, yeah, I like the 40s myself.
So being real with our kids, and there's a line of we are the parent, we're responsible for them. And the other thing that they delve into great detail, and there's we're doing kind of a shorter podcast today, not as much time to get into this, but sharing yourself with your child versus dumping on them. And when you're feeling overwhelmed by circumstances, to not be unloading on them and expecting them to be your support system.
Okay.
It's okay to cry in front of them, for them to see that you're sad. And again, looking at age appropriateness of these, sharing your feelings.
Emotions, yeah.
And a lot of people, I guess, hide a whole lot of that from their kids. I know that I teetered on oversharing and a little bit too much of letting it all out there in front of them, that they felt in some ways that they needed to take care of mom.
Well, it's like the parents that that have come into me, and they're afraid to show arguments in front. Now, I don't want to show abuse, yet I think it's important for disagreements, for kids to be able to see the full spectrum of that.
You're talking about between two adults, for them.
The parents with parents arguing or having a disagreement. You and I've had them, but to see the part where they resolve,
they work through it, versus your parents get in a fight, doors slam, they go up and disappear. I remember worrying when I was a kid that they were going to get divorced. I mean, this was the 80s and everyone was getting divorced. And then they, the next day everything would be fine or whatever. And you never saw that resolution. You never saw the middle component of it. And so it left you not learning those skills of solving things and working things out. And it's like letting your kids fight when they get into arguments with each other. I know I've pointed this out with you sometimes. Our girls will be squabbling with each other, and it's like, it's okay. That's their relationship is their relationship, and that's how they learn these things. You learn a lot from your siblings, how to interact with people, what people tolerate, and so it's an important skill.
Well, and for me, it comes back my childhood when my parents would argue. I believe my mom was, had some depression issues that she went through because of losing a child very young. And they would argue, and then mom would take off from especially at the dinner table. And the next thing you would know is she would be in a room in the dark, sitting at the edge of the bed with a ice pack on her head, saying she has a migraine. And that I always worried about her getting sick and dying because of that. So I mean,
you were 3 when your sister got sick and died.
So it just, how much we influence our kids by what we do, and if we can do it in a good, appropriate way that shows them how to get past things, how to handle things, so that when the day comes when you're not around, whether they're moved away or you're not around, period, they know how to handle these things. They see you going through difficult moments, making mistakes, doing whatever. They can at some point will run into something similar, and they'll be able to say to themselves, this is really tough. It sucks, but I saw mom and dad get through it, and now I know I can get through it too. I think that's an important message for people to understand, for parents to understand. What they do, the mistakes they make are the lessons they learn for the kids. What?
Can I speak?
No. I had an important thought
I
there.
feel like I'm my family of extroverts growing up as a kid. It's like,
I want to say something.
talk now. I didn't even bother when I was a kid. I think one thing that you can do is just verbalize. I don't feel good right now. I just, just kind of worn out, cranky. You know how you feel when you need a nap, or talking to your kids in an appropriate way, verbalizing what you're doing. I'm going to go upstairs for a little bit. I need to be by myself. And so speaking those things, how impactful that is, when we assume we, make an ass out of you and me, and just talking through things that we're doing with our kids, mom and dad don't agree on this right now, and we're frustrated and we're mad at each other, just like you might get mad at your brother. And we just need a few minutes to cool down and calm down before we can talk about this. And so letting them know that and they talk about letting your kids know, I'm feeling this way right now. It's not your job to, help solve this for me or take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And
that comes later in life.
And that's something you have to show in your actions. And that's the line where I feel like, I know there were times because of my depression and where I probably teetered on oversharing. And so it's just a matter of tuning into yourself and recognizing your strengths and your weaknesses. And are your kids, do they know who you are as a person? And then talking about, as your kids get older, your relationship is going to evolve with them to one where, we have two grown children, and our son, 25, he lives on his own. He's fully functional, saving up money to buy a house. And when you've had to go in the hospital, or, someone has had emergency needs, he's come to our help, and he's in a place where he can do that. He has a job position where he can step away, and I guess he's doing it because we did that for him, and just him being supportive and being there for us. And so I lean on him in a different way, but I still in my mind realize he's a young adult, and there's still a difference there. And yet I'm losing my trains of thought. Trains left the station.
It's coming back. No.
Having that relationship with them. Hunter Clarke Fields and Kathy and Todd started their conversation talking about teenagers, and that when you build a relationship with your children from a young age, mm-hmm. they learn that they can talk to you and they can open up and they can share with you, and they can be real and let their feelings out and speak up. As a kid, I didn't always speak up. I guess, feel that was my place to really share my struggles. And I remember thinking I wanted my parents to just know. And so having that relationship makes a big difference. They talked about enjoying teenagers, and I couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. The earliest teenage years are the hardest, in my opinion. And being a part of their life. I mean, both our kids that live on their own, they call us. My oldest, he was sick and he was like debating. He's like, call me when you have a chance. He was deciding, do I go to urgent care? Do I go straight to the emergency department? He's got this cough he couldn't get rid of. And he reaches out for my assistance. And our daughter, who's 21 and navigating life on her own and still struggling financially.
Tells us every night, just about.
And they want to be around us and they want to be with us. And yet they do their own things as well. They have their own time together. And our 14-year-old is delving into that world. I'll be in her room and she'll be like, are you going to stand there forever? She's like, she wants her space. And yet she loves family time when her siblings are around, since they don't live at home anymore. And so I just want to circle back around when I was talking about our youngest being so much younger and parenting differently with each child. Our rules shifted, and as far as expectations, I'm thinking particular of language, that when your kids get older, you might use curse and swear words that you might not normally use, but they get exposed to it between movies and other things that they wouldn't at a younger age. And understanding, the respect with those words and being okay with it. And so our youngest sort of entered that world earlier than the other two. And
there's a bit of a language.
It's over, and he's like, things weren't, we didn't talk like this when I lived at home.
Well, but I've always imparted on all of them that it's how you use the words that makes the difference. If if it's you slam your finger against the door or something and you put a curse word out, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it hurts,
Yeah, but
yet if you're putting somebody down with it, that's a whole different story.
And I think Todd and Kathy on Zen Parenting Radio actually have a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
Because I actually wanted to listen to it with my daughter. So looking at being real.
A little choked up there.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been cleaning out stuff in our house and the dust, and that is the one thing I'm allergic to. And I think it's flaring up my sinuses and allergies to be around all that dust. So being real, we'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions on this.
Well, and know that there's no rule, like Gina said, there's really no real rule book. There's no manual. When I'm working with parents, sometimes when I'm tapping, I'll tap and say, I'm following that manual that came out with the umbilical cord. And then I'll go, oh, wait a minute, there isn't one. And I'm doing this by the seat of my pants, or I'm doing it by what I learned from my parents. So just understand that, it's okay to question things and be real with your kids.
And it's never too late. If you've raised your kids and you have disgruntled teenagers, it doesn't mean it's all over. They talked about that in the podcast, that you can always improve a relationship. You can always change how you're doing things. You can go to your kids and say, hey, this is the way we've done things in the past, but I really don't like how that's going. So I'm going to try these new things now. And I want to build a better relationship. You can verbalize that, especially as your kids are a little bit older. But you can show it, more importantly, with your actions and how you're doing things. We talk about that when we do our workshops, that you start doing things differently, your kids are going to be thrown off depending on their ages. And
with
yet
these people.
with time, and you're showing them, hey, I'm showing up. I'm doing it differently now. I'm really trying. And when we mess up, we say, oh, I messed up. I don't like how that came out. I don't like the way I reacted, and I yelled at you, and I apologize. And I want to do it differently. So, yeah.
So that's the podcast for today.
Some takeaways on it, just thinking about how we're interacting with our kids. Do they get a glimpse of who we really are? Are we being different people with our kids than we are with other adults in the world? And are we engaging with them as real people and looking at them as real people? So please check out the notes to learn more about Zen Parenting Radio and their podcast. We'll share a link to that, as well as Mindful Momma Mentor.
We'd love to hear from you too. Comments, suggestions on what you'd like to hear. What topics would you like to discuss? You can, if you like what you heard today, you can find out more about our workshops. The podcast is on our website, our parent coaching program. We also do Tuesday tips. Every Tuesday we put out a podcast. So it's just some real good, effective, simple tips for parents. We also do it by email.
I have a blog, and I've not written in a little while because of life circumstances, but there are plenty of previous blogs to explore there.
You can find them all at www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. That's focused with an ED, healthyfamily.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family. and Instagram, gina.focusedhealthyfamily.
And remember, not only how you speak to your kids, but how you act with them shapes their future and yours.
Take care.